Hello, everyone. I am going to wait a couple more minutes. Come in. I'm going to wait a couple more minutes and then we're going to start the session at 10 o'clock and I'll introduce myself properly. If you're watching, give me a wave. Tell me who you are. Introduce yourself in the chat. Who's watching today? Where are you watching from? Where are people based? Are you in the UK? Are you further afield? Are there any names? Can I give anyone a shout out before we start? Come in, make yourselves comfortable. I'm in my office at the moment, and I've got a lovely, I can't even remember what these are called. These like make lovely kind of nice smell. I've got my lemongrass burning. I'm so ready for today's session. We're going to wait a couple more minutes and we will get going. And in today's session, we're going to be talking all about body image in kids. It's going to be a really lovely session. And it might even be useful for grown-ups who are watching as well, feeling good about their own body, particularly at the moment in lockdown when we're all kind of a little bit discombobulated and maybe not in our usual routines and maybe kind of not feeling so great at the moment. So I hope that today's session will be useful for everyone. So I think I'll give it one more minute. We'll wait for everyone to come in and do let me know where you're watching from. I've got the live chat open. So if anyone says hello, tell me what your names are. Tell me, hello, I'm watching from Liverpool, but baby is still sleeping. Oh, okay. Shall I try and be quiet? This is Yaz. Hi, Yaz. Give me a wave if you're watching. Thank you for joining us, Yaz. Oh, gosh. I hope baby doesn't wake up. If baby wakes up partway through, then obviously you can. This is not just for adults, by the way. There can be some interactive activities for little ones to do as well. But hopefully, if you don't get to watch the whole thing today, you'll be able to come back and watch it later. So I think it's 10 o'clock by my clock. Anyway, it's 10 o'clock. So should we just get started? Right, hello, my name's Molly Forbes. I'm a campaigner and a writer and a presenter and a speaker. I've done a little bit of TV, I've got a podcast, and I'm also the founder of something called the Body Happy Organisation, which is a community interest company, officially launching later this year, but we have been running for a while already. And what we are dedicated to promoting positive body image environments for children. So we're all about kind of helping children to be friends with their body and love the skin they're in. And we do workshops with teachers and we do masterclass with parents, and we've got lots of online resources that you can download too. Hello, if you're joining now, we've got B and little one, we've got hello B and little from Riska. Hello. So in today's session, we're going to kind of this is a huge subject, and it's a really vast, nuanced, multi-layered subject. And to be honest, I could probably do a live for like a full week on this whole subject. So I can only cover so much in half an hour. But what we're going to do is we're kind of dive into it and give a broad overview of this subject and give you some practical tools that you can use with your little ones at home to help create positive body image environments. But first of all, I think it's really important to kind of just be aware of what body image is and, you know, why it matters. So what I want to say, actually, if you've got any questions as I'm going through this, and just jump on the chat, put your questions in there. I will do my very best to answer them as I'm going along. And if you've got any thoughts, or anything that you kind of want to ask about, jump on the chat. This is very much an interactive session, as interactive as it can be. If I was in the room with you, I would be encouraging you to raise your hand and get involved as well. So first of all, what is body image? Well, this is kind of, I think that we often as a society have a bit of a misunderstanding over what body image is, and then that can create problems, like just to start off with. So to put simply, what is body image? Body image is the way that we think and feel about our body. It's the relationship we have with our body. So despite what the beauty and diet industry might tell us, body image is not just liking what you see in the mirror. Okay, and I think that's a really important distinction to make, because sometimes we think, if I can just change what I can see that's looking back at me in the mirror, then I will improve my body image. And a lot of the time when companies are trying to, sell us, that magic cream or that magic pill or that magic whatever it is, they're doing it because they're saying to us, if you do this, you're going to look different, you're going to change your external appearance, and that will improve your body image. And actually, it's far more complicated than that. It is our relationship with our bodies. So it's the way we think and feel about our body. So I think if you're a grown-up watching this, and I'm guessing that most of you are pregnant or you've got little ones, and your bodies have probably been through some massive changes, you know, particularly, you know, recently if you've just had a baby or you're growing a baby. So you might have noticed that your body image has changed because the way that you think and feel about your body has changed. Your body's, maybe you've got like a new kind of sense of awe of what your body can do. Maybe you're kind of getting used to your body looking different. But I think that it's really important to know that as adults, we have all of our own stuff with body image, but this isn't something that just starts when we're grown-ups. So when does body image begin? So researchers don't yet know exactly when body image develops, but there is evidence to show that children as young as 3 years old can feel bad about their body. And what we know from, you know, increasing amounts of research on this subject, particularly research that's coming out just in the last year with the impact of lockdown, that body image is becoming an increasingly pressing, urgent problem with young children. And we know that, for example, there's research to show that a large number of girls as young as 5 years old are saying they need to go on a diet. We know that it's increasingly affecting boys as well, and children of all genders. So I think if you're a parent and you want to raise children who have, you know, a happy, healthy, positive relationship with their body, it is never too early to start learning about this stuff. So Yaz, who is watching from Liverpool, whose baby is still sleeping, even though your baby is not yet grown up, it is not too early for you to learn about this. So why does it matter? The way we think and feel about our body impacts the way that we treat it. Okay, so it also impacts how we show up in the wider world and how we form relationships. So it is a really kind of vast, multi-layered issue. It is not just liking what you see in the mirror. It's not just kind of, it's not like a vanity issue. It is as deep as affecting, you know, the healthy choices that we make, the choices that we make about how we look after our body, how we show up in the wider world, how we engage at work, for children, how they engage at school and preschool. It is a huge subject. And we know that children who feel bad about their body are less likely to raise their hand in class. Okay, they're less likely. 1 in 5 girls are not raising their hand in class at the moment in school for fear of judgment over how they look. Okay, 1 in 5. That is a lot of children who are not engaging in class because they are feeling self-conscious about the way they look and about their body. We also know that children who feel bad about their body are more likely to skip PE at school and less likely to want to engage in movement and take part in kind of sports. And we also know that children who feel bad about their body are more likely to suffer with mental health issues linked to poor body image. So, you know, low self-esteem, anxiety, and other serious mental health concerns that are linked to poor body image. And we also know that by the time children get to the teenage years, teenagers who have poor body image, there is research to show they're more likely to binge drink and smoke and take part in engaging like risky behaviors such as dieting and disordered eating. So it's a really serious subject. And we also know as well that children who are in higher weight categories are more likely to be bullied at school. This is research coming from the World Health Organization. So creating an environment where all children feel accepting of their own bodies and the bodies of other children around them, and they know that all bodies are good bodies to be celebrated and nurtured and cared for, that then creates a loving, accepting environment for all children, and it will directly impact, you know, the number of children who are being bullied at school or in, you know, preschool settings, or children who are, you know, being kind to other children. So basically, if we care about health and well-being and the happiness of children in our care, and we want to raise good, kind humans, then we need to know about body image. So in today's session, we're going to learn some brilliant body image boosting tools that you can use with the children in your care. We're going to do some fun exercises together, which you can do with your little ones as well during this session to make us appreciate and love our bodies just as they are. And we're going to talk as well about some of the things that you can do to create a body happy environment at home for your children to thrive in as well. And like I said, it's a huge and nuanced subject. I can't possibly cover everything in today's session, but if you go over to my Instagram page, I'm Molly J Forbes over on Instagram, you'll find more resources and tools, including links to downloadable things, places that you can dive in to find out more information about this. So activity 1, first activity of the session, we're going to do some affirmations. So I'm guessing if you are part of the Positive Birth Company community, you may already be aware of the power of affirmations, particularly if you've done a hypnobirthing course, maybe you've done the digital pack, or you've done one of our group courses with Positive Birth Company, and you might know already that affirmations are not just sort of like this woo-woo nonsense thing. They're based in science, they're evidence-based. Affirmation theory, it's a psychological theory that we can change our thought patterns with affirmations, because the way that we talk to ourselves matters. Our brains are that amazing. And the great thing about affirmations is that they're not just for pregnancy and birth. You can use them at all different points in your life as well. So in this activity, we are going to use the power of affirmations to boost some body appreciation in children. And we're going to talk a little bit more about body appreciation in a second. But it's really important here to note that children pick up on messages around them all the time. They're like little sponges, their little ears are listening all the time. And there's evidence to show that talking negatively about your own body in front of your children or the bodies of other people around you can have a knock-on effect on how children feel about their own body. So even if you're not saying anything negative about your kid's body, if you're saying negative things about your own body or the bodies of people around you, children can pick up on that. And equally, if you're often complimenting people for the way they look, or you're having conversations about other people's bodies, whether it's a celebrity who's, I don't know, maybe they've lost a lot of weight recently, if you're having conversations like that in front of your children, that can impact their body image as well. So what we're going to do with affirmations, we're going to really get back to body appreciation, appreciating what our body can do over what it looks like. So this is something you can do right now with your kids if they're watching as well, or you can do it later on after the session is finished. And if you're joining in and taking part as you're watching, let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat, and maybe we could read out some of the things that your little ones say to you. If you've got toddlers who are just starting to learn to talk, this can be a really, really cute activity. So I want you to, if you're watching with your kids right now, I want you to turn to your child and I want you to each tell each other one thing that you like about your body, focusing on what your body can do over what your body looks like. So one thing, I want you to turn and look at each other right now and say one thing that you like about your body. So I'm going to say, I'm going to pretend my daughter's here. I've got 2 little girls. I've got a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I'm going to say, I love how my arms can give you cuddles. I think my arms are awesome because they give you the best cuddles. What else do I love about my body? I love how my tummy tells me when I'm hungry, because that's really important, because otherwise I wouldn't know when I was hungry. I love how my tummy tells me when I'm hungry. I love how my mouth can smile when I'm happy, and it can make other people feel good as well if I'm smiling, when we smile at each other. So that kind of thing. So I want you to think of some affirmations, and if you're doing them now, tell me what they are in the chat so I can read them out. This is an activity that you can do every single day, and you can do it standing in front of the mirror together. You can point out one thing that you love about what your body can do. There is evidence to show, like I said before, that role modeling positive body image, so this kind of thing, it can have a really powerful impact on children. And saying my body can, my body can. It doesn't have to be about running marathons, or that's great if you want to go and run a marathon. It doesn't have to be about that. It doesn't have to be, about lifting super heavy weights. It can be something as simple as giving your little one a cuddle. Your body is a safe space for them. Your body can comfort your little ones. That is a hugely powerful moment of body appreciation. And what these affirmations will do if you do them kind of continually. And there are other ways that you can use affirmations with little ones as well. Anne-Marie is saying, I love my eyes. They love looking at you. Oh my gosh. I love my eyes. They love looking at you. Oh, I love my eyes, how they can see you, Pavi says. Oh, are these what your little ones are saying? These are so lovely. Oh God, if I get through the rest of this session without crying, I'm an emotional wreck at the moment, probably like lots of people. I'm very, very emotional. So that is so lovely to hear. But doing these things every day with your little ones. I love my body because it grew my baby. This is Mama Mandy. He's 11 months, so he didn't really respond. Do you know what though? It is never too early to use affirmations, even if you've got little babies, you know. These are like the words, they are little sponges. They're hearing these things all the time. And the environments around them and the atmosphere around them and the words they hear, they matter so much. So, you know, just kind of appreciating, you know, these little moments of body appreciation can be so powerful, because what they do is they work together to build up this overall kind of lovely environment, which can then help little ones bat away the negative messages, which are bound to come for them later on. So you can also find, by the way, a sheet of Body Happy affirmations, for Body Happy Kids affirmations, which you can download by the link in my bio on Instagram. It might be useful if you're interested in kind of using affirmations with your kids. So body appreciation, we talked a minute ago, I mentioned, you know, we talk about body appreciation, but basically this is a way to build body image resilience in children and grown-ups, because it can help us appreciate our body for all that it is right now. So it's not about, oh, you know, when I've lost that weight, I can appreciate my body, or when I've, you know, when I can do that marathon, or when I've, you know, got bigger muscles, I can appreciate my body. No, you are allowed to appreciate your body right now. And children need to know they're allowed to appreciate their body right now, for all that it can do instead of what it looks like. So we're going to do another activity now. This is called the Best Friend Challenge. I don't know if you've got a pen and paper, then this is a good kind of, it's almost like a journaling activity, actually. It can be something that you do on your own without your children as a journaling activity, or it can be an activity that you do with your kids. And if you've got tiny babies, obviously they're not going to be writing and things, but toddlers, you can use, you know, you can draw pictures. So this is the Best Friend Challenge. So I want you right now to close your eyes and think of someone that you love. Okay, so close your eyes and think of a person that you really love. Maybe it's someone that you're missing right now. Maybe it's someone who you haven't seen for a while because you're in lockdown. You can't be near them at the moment. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a parent or a sibling, or maybe it's a best friend. And I want you to think now of 3 things that you love about that person. So just take a moment to think of 3 things that you love about that person. Okay, and if you've got a moment, you can write this down. Write down the 3 things that you love about them. You don't have to write them down though. You can say them out loud. You can just say them in your head. And now I want you to refer back to your list. And if you've got any thoughts, maybe you could share in the live chat if you feel comfortable. Share, you know, someone that you love right now and the 3 things that you love about them. And I can read some of them out. And I want you to have a look at that list and notice how many things on that list are to do with the way that person looks. How many things on that list are to do with that person's outward appearance? I'm guessing not many, maybe even none. Because the reason that we form deep connections with people, and the reason that we have these like deep, you know, relationships with people, it's not because of their external appearance or the way they look. And this is what we want to get back to with children. We want to teach children, you know, to know that from day one, that the reasons that they are loved and the reasons that other people love them and that they love other people, it's because of what is inside, not what's outside. So now another thing you can do with this activity is you can flip it. So maybe think about the person that you were just thinking about just now. So the family friend maybe that you're missing, your best friend or your parent or your you know, your partner, someone that you really, really love. And now think about what 3 things they might say about you. And if this is, you know, something that you do with children, so older children can do this. My 6-year-old does this, and I've been doing this activity with her since she was 3 years old. I ask her to think of, you know, her best friend, and tell me 3 things that she loves about her best friend. And then I ask her to say, right, what would your best friend say about you? And this is something that you can keep referring back to as well. And then one thing that you can do is you can also draw a picture of yourself, and you can ask your little ones to kind of draw a picture to put the self-love letter into kind of action. So maybe they could write the 3 things around the edge of the picture, or do some love hearts. It's so just a really nice kind of interactive way that you can, again, boost that body appreciation. And if you do this activity, hi Amy from Devon, if you do this activity, that's Amy, my friend actually, who's watching. If you do this activity with children, and you write the list down, or you draw a picture, then take a picture of it and tag me on Instagram and tag Positive Birth Company so that we can see as well, because I love, like, these little moments are just so special. I love seeing them. So we're going to talk about movement now, because we are hurtling through this session, and I'm aware that I'm going to be on here forever otherwise, and there are other sessions throughout the week. You might have heard the term joyful movement or intuitive movement. I don't know if any of you have heard that term. And this is a term that refers to the connection that we have with our body when we move it, and moving for how it makes us feel over how it makes us look. And there are whole books written about this subject, but 2 that I love, I've got right here. Tally Rye, who wrote a book called Train Happy, and I love Louise Green's Big Fit Girl. And these are also 2 brilliant people to follow on Instagram if you're interested in learning about fitness through a non-diet culture kind of lens. So really looking at how, you know, moving your body can be a really empowering thing for how it makes you feel over how it makes you look. And when it comes to children, this is really important, because if we make things fun and it's not something that they have to do, then kids and grown-ups actually are much more likely to do it. And the research shows that if we move our body for how it makes us feel over how it makes us look, we are more likely to exercise consistently and engage with movement more regularly. And that is obviously what we want for the long term, you know, rather than just doing it for 6 weeks before we go on holiday because, you know, we want to get the quote unquote bikini body. But also, this is really interesting. In 2007, I mean, if you want to geek out over this, I love this kind of research, but in 2007, researchers found out that people who are motivated to move their body for health and enjoyment reasons, so that whole thing about how it makes you feel over how it makes you look, as opposed to aesthetic reasons, so weight loss, for example, maybe, they had a lower pulse, lower systolic blood pressure, and salivary stress hormone. So not only is it going to make you engage with the movement more consistently, it also has immediate physical benefits, you know, like the actual markers of health like go up, which I just think is like amazing. So this is a mindful movement game we're going to play now, and a really great way to kind of encourage joyful movement is to encourage children to check in with their body regularly and really notice how it makes them feel before and after movement. So we're going to do a little activity now which you can get involved with. So I'm going to stand up. You don't have to stand up, you can do this sitting down, but if you're able to stand up, stand up. And if your little ones are joining in, again, say hello, give me a wave. So what I want you to do is stand up for a second, and I want you to close your eyes and just kind of check in. We're going to do a little body scan. So notice, how fast is your heart beating? So I'm going to get comfortable. How fast is your heart beating? If maybe you could put your hands on your heart and notice, is it relaxed? How do your legs feel? Do they feel heavy? Maybe you feel tired. Maybe you feel excited. Can you notice how your arms are feeling? Okay. How fast are you breathing? Okay, so open your eyes, and now for the fun bit, we're going to go mad. We're going to go. I want you to jump up and down. I want you to do some like big, maybe you can do the floss. Maybe you could blow some bubbles and pop some bubbles. Pop some bubbles. I want you to like jog on the spot. I want you to like punch, 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 move around, and stop. Okay. Close your eyes again. Put your hand on your heart. And notice, how is your heart beating? Is it beating faster? Maybe you're breathing a bit faster, a bit more deeply. Maybe you feel a bit more awake now. Maybe you feel a bit more tired. Tell me how you're feeling in the chat. That is a really great, I'm out of breath now. That is a really great activity to do. Anytime you do any kind of movement. So maybe if you're walking to the park with your little ones, you can encourage them as you're walking, just have a chat and say, you know, how are you feeling right now? Is your heart beating fast? Notice if it's beating, you know, like quite relaxed. How are your legs feeling? And then afterwards, you can do that again. So we went for a family walk at the weekend, all we can ever do at the moment, isn't it? And we walked up a big hill. And before we walked up the hill, me and my 6-year-old stood at the bottom of the hill. It was a really steep hill and she was not keen on having to walk up it. And we just kind of stood next to each other and we did that activity. We're like, right, how's your heart? How fast is your heart beating? Are your legs feeling tired or awake or, you know, lively? How deep are you breathing? And then we walked up the hill and we did the same thing at the top. And she said to me, my legs feel like jelly because she walked up the hill. But she said, my legs feel strong. And she said, my heart feels alive. And it was just the sweetest things. It was a moment for her to really kind of connect with her body and recognize how it was making her body feel. So that's a mindful movement game that you can do regularly with little ones. And it's just a really great kind of activity to do to kind of get that whole kind of connection with the body going and really boost that body appreciation. So I'm going to talk quickly about food now, because I think that it's important to recognize that we can't talk about body image in kids without at least mentioning food. But I want to be really clear that I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist. But what I'm going to do is signpost you towards some places where you can learn more about this stuff if you're interested. Because sometimes the messages that children can get about food can inadvertently harm their body image. So, for example, if a child learns to see certain foods as good and bad, and then they start to equate certain foods as making them quote unquote fat or quote unquote thin, this shows that they're internalizing ideas about the ideal body, quote unquote ideal body, and they're starting to see some bodies as good and some bodies as bad. And of course, as parents, we want to help our children make healthy choices. We often feel under pressure to encourage our children to eat all their fruit and vegetables, for example. But it's also really important not to put certain foods on a pedestal or to vilify other types of food, because this can have a huge impact on children's relationship with food and with their relationship with their bodies, as well as the ideas that they have about the bodies of people around them that may not look like their own. So if you're interested in learning more about this subject, I recommend looking up the work of an infant feeding expert based in the US called Ellen Satter, who's written many books about this subject. And she has a framework called the Division of Responsibility, which is a really useful model for parents, both if you are just starting to think about weaning, maybe your babies are just starting to be interested in food, and this is a great time to learn about this, and also if your kids are much older too. And also, I think that often people think, oh, well, if I can't talk about food and I can't, teach my kids about good food and bad food, how do I teach my kids to have a, positive relationship with food? Well, gardening is great for body image, but there's also lots of evidence to show that getting kids involved with growing food and preparing food and learning where food comes from is a really great way to promote like a healthy, happy relationship with food later on. And it might even mean that they're more likely to try new foods. And now we're going to end the session with a really useful tool that you can use. And this is something that I often talk about. If I ever do kind of any interviews about the subject, I always say this tool is like an invaluable tool. And even if you've got babies, this is not too soon to learn about this subject, because you can use this tool, with very, very young children as well. And I think that one of the questions that I so regularly get is, well, that's all very well to kind of do all these things to help children feel good about their body, but what happens when the negative messages come? Because inevitably they will go out to school and they might hear someone, speaking about bodies in a particular way. They might, see a cartoon that has kind of negative messages in. They might start reading magazines or whatever. At some point, the messages are going to come. And you're right, they are going to come, because we live in a culture, we live in the culture that we do, that tells us that in order to be successful and happy and healthy and loved, you have to look a certain way, and that some types of bodies are better than others. And I think that what we need to do is be aware of this. So we need to create an environment at home that kind of helps kind of counteract some of that, but also give children a tool to kind of decode some of those messages. And this is where something called media literacy comes in. So maybe you're watching Peppa Pig, for example. Okay, and maybe there's a joke about Daddy Pig's tummy, because Daddy Pig's tummy always seems to be the punchline of the joke on Peppa Pig. Or maybe you're watching a Disney film and you've watched a few, maybe you've got Disney Plus and you've watched a few Disney films, and my kids love Disney. They've been watching loads of Disney Plus over like the last year since the first lockdown. But maybe you've noticed that all of the heroes, all the princes and princesses, all have a particular type of body. Maybe you've noticed, maybe your child is starting to notice that, the princesses often have long glossy hair, thin narrow waist, big eyes, and the other characters who don't have bodies like that are never central to the story. So there's never any positive representation. They're either the best friend or the matriarch or sometimes the baddie, if you think of something like Ursula on Little Mermaid. And so this is where media literacy comes in. And this is the tool that I was saying before. And it's a really useful tool to help children question the content that they consume and to understand that they don't need to just take this stuff at face value. And it is never too young to teach children to start asking questions and encouraging them to get curious. So step one, if you start with what your children know. So if we go back to Peppa Pig, for example, your children can probably recognize that Peppa Pig is pretend, and that in real life, maybe they know that pigs don't tend to talk in real life. If you go to a farm with children, the pigs aren't going to start talking to them in the way that Peppa Pig does. So relate that with what they watch. Relate what they watch with their own world. So you can then start to think about, maybe if the character falls over, maybe Peppa Pig falls over, maybe George falls over, he jumps in a muddy puddle, he falls over and he starts crying. And you might say, that's how it would happen in real life, isn't it? Although George, talking pig, it's not every day you see a talking pig jumping in puddles wearing welly boots. But in real life, if a child fell over in a puddle, they might start crying. You might start crying. And that might be how it happens in real life. So relate what they're watching again with their own world. Then step 3, talk about the similarities. So maybe your kids have got a favourite doll. Maybe they like playing with Barbies, for example, or Action Man. Maybe talk about some of the similarities with, that toy and your child's, the bodies that your child knows in real life. So maybe, it's got feet and hands and arms, whatever. And then talk about the difference. So talk about some of the ways that your child's favourite toy or cartoon or whatever it is they're watching, YouTube channel, might be different to the real life version. And that is a way to start encouraging media literacy from a really young age. And then as children get older, you can bring in more conversations that encourage them to ask questions about what they're consuming. And don't be afraid of not having the answer, because the point here is not to always have the answer. The point here is to encourage your children to be critical consumers. So to not just accept what they're watching at face value and not assume that it just kind of appears out of the ether and it just gets made. There is a human making this content, and every human making it has their own internalized biases. So encouraging children to kind of be curious and understand that everything that they're watching or reading has been made by someone, and that there are certain tricks and techniques that have been used to get across a point of view or encourage them to watch that content. So we're coming to the end of the session today, and I'm going to end on 3 things that you can do right now today for a body happy home. So number 1, introduce diversity into your home. So if your kids aren't seeing a wide range of different types of bodies on TV or YouTube or in their books, for example, you can introduce that into your home. You can introduce that. It's never too early to start. And it's so important for body image, for children to see a wide range of bodies, to know that, bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. And even if we all ate the same food and all did the same type of movement, then, our bodies would all still look different, because diversity exists. We're not all meant to look the same. So you can introduce it. There are some really great books behind me. These are some lovely books I love for kids and little ones, all different kind of ages there, just to encourage diversity and acceptance. Don't body shame. Number 2, don't body shame yourself or other people in front of your kids. Remember, what your children see and hear matters. They are learning from you all the time. If you can be accepting of your own body, even if you don't always feel like it, don't show that to your children. If you can accept your own body and kind of role model some of that body acceptance, that will play a huge part in how your children feel about their own body. And then call out the negative messages when you see them. So this is where the media literacy tool comes in. So if you're watching, a cartoon and there's some negative body messages, call it out and have a conversation about it. Also, maybe it's about creating some clear boundaries around the way that maybe extended family talk about, bodies or food or diets or whatever. It might mean challenging, casual weight stigma or diet talk in front of, with relatives, for example. It might be having some difficult conversations with, the other people that care for your children. But calling it out is a really great way to protect your children, but also to kind of help change the culture, the overall culture that children are growing up in. Because I think that we, as parents, we can be really empowered to do something about this. We don't have to just accept the status quo and accept it for what it is. Tanya says, please could you put your list of those books onto the postpartum group, please? Of course I can, Tanya. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here today, and I hope it's been useful. Thank you. Bye, everyone.